Good evening, everyone. We heartily welcome you all in today's session. I, Pranjal, along with my friends Nitanshu, Naya, Manav, would like to begin by saying that in this scientific era of many discoveries and inventions, science makes the impossible possible with just the blink of an eye. Yet there's no place for superstition. Science and superstitions are poles apart, yet they are the two sides of the same coin, unknown of the interdependent. These two unrealistic and realistic, unimaginable and imaginable, never ending and never ending concepts, science and superstitions are interconnected somewhere beyond the universe by some unpredictable threads of coin.
Thank you for your kind introduction. I would love to speak on this topic. Science completes superstition in the same way as reasons complete assumptions. Reasons sometimes fail to explain the right, rendering the assumptions to be dark and blank. And sometimes baseless reasons succeed in explaining a taboo. Guys, ever heard some weird things like when a black cat crosses your road while you are doing or going to do something good? It brings bad omen to that good work. Like watching a solar eclipse for a woman who is pregnant brings bad luck. Well, you are not alone who have heard these things. Or over 52% people believe or at least hear these kinds of things, or we can simply call them superstitions. We are going to now start the discussion on science versus superstitions.
It's my pleasure to be here. Moving on to the topic, although there is no single definition of superstition, it generally means a belief in supernatural forces or the desire to influence unpredictable factors and a need to resolve uncertainty.
Thank you. I would like to discuss my viewpoints on this topic. The people who believe in superstitions desire an assumption that a connection exists, the reason between co-occurring and non-related events. The reason people follow superstitions is that different religions have different opinions about it, and people have faith in their religions and their sayings. They believe that these are the sayings by God.
Now let's discuss some of the famous superstitions that you all might have heard in your daily life. One day, when I was crossing road with my mother, a black cat crossed the road before we do. Then my mother told me not to cross the road and I asked her the reason and explained me the whole thing. When I reached home, I tried to find the reason on internet and I found that there are different beliefs in different countries. Like in India, people generally associate black color with Lord Shani. And it is said that if a black cat crosses your path, then you should let somebody else pass before you do. This way, the first person will have all the bad luck and you won't. In Europe, they consider black cat a symbol of bad luck, and particularly if one walks across the path in front of a person which is believed to be an omen of misfortune and death. In Germany, some believe that black cats crossing a person's path from right to left, it's a bad omen. But from left to right, the cat is granting favorable times.
Well, by contrast, belief in science indexes the belief that scientific inquiry is a method and form of knowledge superior to all others that allow us to understand the world. In this century, not everything could be relied on such a belief. We do respect religious beliefs and the reasons behind it, but there are scientific terms too, which clearly needs to be looked upon. Well, talking about the superstition of black cat, well, Naya, even I have heard it from my grandparents, but I totally do not agree with it. I mean, it's like you haven't left out animals too. Well, certainly this does not make any true sense. Like in ancient times, black cats were also considered a sign of fortune. Plus, in today's world, a lot of people adopt black cats, and it's nothing wrong in it, right? So, considering that black cats are unlucky is all justifying how truly clever you are in believing in such a superstition.
Thank you, Pranjal, for a kind explanation. But still, a lot of people have faith in this.
Moving on to the next superstitions. Have you all heard or believe that seems always Number 13 was cursed or proven unlucky. Well, Naya, do you remember that once in our class, a boy got a roll number 13 and he clearly refused to accept it because he thinks number 13 is unlucky.
Well, I do remember.
Ancient Christianity declared the number 13 unlucky, and therefore, till date, apartments, hotels keep the 13th floor. Some hotels will have no room 13, while a lot of tall buildings don't have a 13th floor, jumping straight from 12 to 14. Some airlines also refuse to have a 13 in their planes too.
What? Some people feel number 13 is unlucky? Well, this is just a foolish superstition. It doesn't even need a scientific explanation. Though it's all been carried on since ages. But this is 21st century. We need to know that just because of some crazy coincidences happening simultaneously resulted in number 13 being unlucky. Well, whenever you make a building 13 floors tall, won't it make any difference if you change its name to 14th floor? Because we all know the calculations.
Well, yes, this does make a sense now.
I have heard many times from my mother that never sweep the floor in the evening. I found the reason that in the Hindu mythology, Acharya Indu Prakash talks about the right time to use the broom to clean the house. The first 4 hours of the day are considered appropriate for sweeping the house, while the last 4 hours of the day, that is, at night, is considered inappropriate for this work. By sweeping the house in the last 4 hours of the day, negativity spreads in the house, and my Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, becomes very angry and affects the movement of money in the house. It is also believed that Lakshmi goes out of the house by throwing mud outside in the evening and negativity enters the house.
Okay, so Naya, have you ever thought about its scientific reason? So for this, the scientific reason is that once sunset, it starts getting dark. As in olden times, there was no source of electricity. So in order to prevent things getting misplaced, or even in the dark, you cannot see properly. So it is avoided to sweep during the olden ages. But now in this 20th century, it's certainly okay because we got light facilities and believing in the religious reason that sweeping after night would draw back the Lakshmi isn't worth it because God does not look over the time but the trust and honesty of a person.
Well, certainly, you got a point though.
Have you ever felt scared to visit a people tree at night? I have a lot of time because of these superstitions. So it is believed that you should not visit a people tree or sleep under it in the evening because people say that a ghost resides under it and it could harm you. Well, in the religious, goddess Lakshmi sits under the people tree and thus Hindus consider it to be scared and worship it. Even Lord Krishna died under a people tree. Thus, it was prohibited to visit a maple tree in the night.
Well, some people say ghosts or spooky creatures live in the tree of people, and going there at night can be quite dangerous. Do people really believe these things? I mean, this is digital era. Well, there are no ghosts or paranormal creatures that live in a people tree. And going there at night is completely safe. In fact, the tree releases oxygen in day as well as in the night. So it is safe to sleep there too. Just you'll find some little annoying bugs, but nothing more than that.
Thank you, Nitanshu, for sharing your viewpoints.
Do you remember time when you were heading out of your one of the important exams and your mom calls out and literally spoon feed you a bowl mixed curd with sugar? It is believed that it eventually brings good luck and success.
Well, this is a very common superstition which we all have heard and implemented too. Though Naya, technically this isn't a superstition because curd is known to have a cooling and soothing effect on the body and mind. Moreover, sugar gives instant energy, so initially it does not bring good luck, but the chances of a betterment in work increases cause of your good health.
Moving on to the next superstitions. You might have heard that throwing coins in the fountains and river brings good luck. So people often believe it.
This was all said during the olden ages. Well, for this, the scientific reason is that most currencies in ancient times were made up of copper, and by throwing copper coins in the river, our forefathers apparently ensured that they were consuming pure water. Science has it that copper has antimicrobial properties which can kill infection causing bacteria. However, today neither do we have copper coins nor do we drink water directly from the river. This belief has brought in more pollution than good luck.
Moving on to the next superstition, we all must have heard about the superstition of Nimbu Mirchi Tarka. The Nimbu Mirchi Tarka is one of the commonly visible superstition among the society, and it is often said that it drives away buri nazar and stuff like that.
Yup, Naya, that's a very well known superstition in our society. The scientific reason and the reason why it is often encouraged is due to the qualities of lemon and chilies, as they both are rich in different vitamins and create a certain acidic odor which keeps away insects. Thus, our ancestors used this as a symbol during ceremonies, which have now turned into a tadka.
Thank you, Pranjal, for sharing the scientific reason.
You might have heard about the superstitions that a lizard falling on a human is a massive bad luck and said to take a bath instantly.
It's said to be bad luck, but the scientific reason behind this is that lizard releases poisonous chemicals from its body in order to protect itself from its enemies. So, if it falls on human body or in a container which contains food, it is bound to be contaminated. So, bath is taken immediately after it falls on someone.
Well, I think we all need to agree with the scientific reason.
We all must have heard superstition about menstruation. In country like India, menstruation is very prevalent and this gave rise to many other beliefs. At the time, women were not allowed inside the house, inside the kitchen, temples, mosques, and other religious spots. They are not allowed to perform any of the household duties because they were considered unholy.
Naya, this sounds super lame, right? Of course. Have you ever thought that such taboos about menstruation present in many societies and their impact on girls, women's emotional state, mentality, lifestyle, and most importantly, their health? A major reason behind these taboos is to give women rest. That's the reason in olden ages, a lot of women do household chores every time, right? So, in order to give them rest, such superstitions have been created. But it's more like a forceful punishment, right? In this case, woman just needs acceptance of such a matter by the society and not pressurizing it.
Is it often illustrated that we should not sleep facing the north because we might get possessed and a wave of negativity might hit you and might invite death? That's why we say do not sleep with your head facing the north.
Well, our ancestors probably knew about the relation between Earth's magnetic field and human body's field. They probably made this rule of sleeping with your head in the south because of the harmful effects related to blood pressure and other diseases that asymmetry with Earth's magnetic field. However, today we only get to hear that sleeping with one's head in the north is inviting death. So now I hope you have got the true reason.
Well, thank you, Nitanshu, for sharing this information. Our ancestors were pretty smart, but unfortunately, this turned out into a superstitions.
Pranjal, look, even our audience is really curious about this topic and we have asked question 2. So let's move on to the questions round in which we are going to answer the question asked by the audience. So let's begin. So the first question we have got is from Miss Punjal Bhimpuria. She asked that we have often heard that shaking your legs drawbacks the will, and if it is true, then what is the scientific reason behind it?
So, Naya, I would like to answer that question. Well, first of all, I do not agree with the superstition at all. And if we are talking about the scientific reason, people often shake their legs in order to cope up with the stress and nervousness. And even if we talk about the rich businessmen, they also have this habit too, right? So it does not have any correlation with drawing back of the Lakshmi or the wealth that you possess.
Yes. So the next question we have is from Miss Drashti Patel, and she is asking that if superstition are this kind lame and they have scientific explanation, then why do people believe in these things? I would like to call Nitanshu to answer this question.
Yes, sure. Well, of course they are late, but still, people think that believe on their own mentality and they have their own religious beliefs. It all depends upon an individual's mentality. But I hope they will get scientific sides too.
Yes. Next question we have got from Miss Pal Patel, and she has asked that what purpose do superstitions serve? So I would like to answer this question. So basically, superstition promote a positive mental attitude in person's life, and sometimes superstitions can have a soothing effect, relieving anxiety and about the unknown and giving people a sense of control over their lives. This may be the reason why superstition have survived for so long and people have passed them from generation to generation. And also, it depends on the person's mentality and belief. Another question we have got from Mr. Kalpesh Patel, and he has asked that do you agree that all the practices are free from science and students who are studying can deal with the superstitions? Manav, can you please answer this question?
Yes, sure. Superstitions have benefits about traditional societies. Many people believe in shamanism, sorcery, spirit professions with an evil eye, magic charm, luck, etc., and often resort to shamans for a supernatural healing. So these are not free from science. And well, we talk about students who are studying can depend on their mind from which they react.
And have you ever thought that it could have clear connections with psychology? I mean, a person who is afraid of darkness, which means he has nectophobia, or phasmophobia, which is fear of supernatural creatures, could have a panic attack and hallucinate things which do not exist. So this rumor of him that being at a certain place could spread all over and develop a form of superstition.
So eventually, by psychology, it is also proven that all this is just in a mind which eventually developed, though nothing like such genuinely exists. So we should upgrade our living back in the 20th century and not in the 90s back there. Because we all are living in a scientific world. We ain't saying that these all might be waste or stuff. We are not willing to hurt anyone's sentiments. Just saying that they all do have a scientific reason which clearly needs to be looked upon. क्योंकि श्रद्धा होनी चाहिए अंधश्रद्धा नहीं.
With this, we end our today's session on science versus superstition. Hope you have understood our basic motto. So I hope you all would stop following such insensible superstitions and get along with today's broad-minded world.
Thank you so much for joining with us today. Hope you all liked it. Stay healthy, stay happy.